pretty, isn't it? This is a pendulum. I've achieved or acquired this recently thanks to the wonders and power of eBay. It's a divining pendulum. It has a metal chain, a couple of hooks and clasp type things to attach the pendulum bob onto the chain. The pendulum bob itself is made out of clear quartz. I don't think you can quite see it, taking into account the focal point of the camera lens, but it's got a few natural faults within the stone which come through and glisten quite nicely in the light once in a while, and it has a relatively high center of gravity thanks to the fact that most of the bulk is at the top of the stone. Now, if you get yourself a pendulum or you make a pendulum, slight changes in the ways in which it is put together is going to affect its performance and what it does. If the center of gravity in the pendulum bob is variable, let's say it's lower down or higher up, that's going to affect the way it swings. With this one, the end of it can wobble, and that's good because that gives you something else which you can notice when you're using it, and that can add to the extra meanings that you're getting from it. Now, with every single person who uses a divining pendulum, they're going to react to it differently, okay, because of your own preconditioning, the way that you're wired. Maybe there's a genetic factor and all the rest of that. So for some people, when it swings clockwise, that'll mean yes. For some, anti-clockwise, that'll mean yes, and so on. We're swinging forwards and backwards, left and right, and doing oval patterns in various different directions. Within the history of pendulum dowsing, there have been books written about apparent, systems as to how to make them work. Some pendulums have actually been made with little chambers inside them where you could put a sample of whatever it is you're looking for. Let's say you're looking for some copper coins in a field. Maybe you put a teeny sliver of copper in your little sample chamber inside the pendulum. However, I personally don't think that that's necessary. Some people have said in their various writings that different lengths of chains will affect what you're looking for. So if you're looking for gold, maybe you would need, let's say, a 3 centimeter chain. And if you're looking for lead, maybe you'll need a 6 centimeter chain, and so on and so forth. But I again think that that's a load of rubbish. I personally consider that dowsing tools such as the pendulum, divining rods, and of course the Ouija are there for or to exploit the ideomotor effects, namely to exploit changes in your own mind and how that then relates to movements in your body. And this can be to a certain extent down to your own personal training and your own experiences using the pendulum. Some people, because they're more suggestible or less suggestible or have something else about them which makes them much more designed to be able to use an ideomotor device, will find it easier, and some will find it harder. And even those who find it hard can still learn to develop some skills using a device such as the pendulum, the Ouija, and all the rest of that. I'm also a personal believer, so to speak, that when one is using a persistence of vision type device such as the black mirror, which I've demonstrated before in the form of scrying into a large mug that was full of water, it was a black mug. You may have already seen the video of that from a little while ago. That works in a similar principle, as it were, using some form of sensory something or other to amplify or get some greater impression as to what's happening within the mind. Of course, the big question is it just in the mind, or is it from somewhere outside of the brain? That's the real issue. So, is this actually a tool of mediumship or of spiritualism? Well, that depends upon how you see it. I mean, I personally would say that it is the person who is the tool of mediumship or spiritualism, and other things, these little add-ons there, just provide you with a little sort of feedback tool so that you can get some kind of impression as to what actually might be going on. At the end of Tom Graves' excellent book on pendulum dowsing, he regarded that the pendulum was a device that you could use to know yourself. So it's more of a form of psychological or mental sort of yoga for some people, just so you can try and study how they react to things, and to think more about the posture of the body, whether there's tension in the shoulders and in the arms, whether that's affecting it, and of course any sense of perception or tension within the mind that could be affecting the results. Some graves recommended that you hang the pendulum as if you were holding maybe the tail of a dead rat, which you didn't really like, so your arm extended a little, wrist relaxed and drooping, and maybe holding it between your thumb and forefinger, or maybe thumb and middle finger. And some people might even say your thumb and your ring finger or little finger. Whatever it is that makes it much easier for the pendulum to react to small muscular motions. Some people say that you can rest your elbow on the table and see whether that would help, because presumably that would isolate a few muscles away from the full effect. So it's only the muscles in basically the lower arm, the hand, and the fingers which are actually being used. People who use the pendulum also say that different forms of altered states of consciousness, states of meditation, can also help as well. But that has to be down to your own personal experimentation, and it is rather hit and miss. Now, there's a good reason why I'm showing you my new little toy. It's not just for me to turn around to you and say, nah, look what I've got, okay? Because that would be pretty, worthless anyway. But what I'm doing is I'm going to use this in a few experiments in the not too distant future, just to see what kind of results that I can get with this particular pendulum. I've tried other pendulums I've made from Fimo, or little decorations or ornaments. Christmas time was great for me because I could actually use one of the Christmas tree baubles on the end of a string, and I could play around with that. But I didn't feel that the weight or the length of the string was quite right, and so maybe having a string which is maybe 2 1/3 shaft hands in length is probably just about right for me. Okay, I think that this one looks good because it's made of this crystal. It's got this kind of like weirdness look about it. It looks like a magical tool. Because of that, it might have an extra beneficial effect upon my mind. If you're trying to use ritualistic tools of any particular type, if they look the part and it's right for you, then don't you think that would do something psychologically for you, which would to a certain extent be more beneficial and would help you to try and achieve the results that you're after? I think so. So that's basically another reason why I've got this one particular type of pendulum. Okay, so there we go. My new toy. Now what I'd like you to do, my studio audience out there, so to speak, all my viewers and subscribers on YouTube, is to suggest to me what to use it for. Alright, and I'm going to pick one of them, just one which I personally consider to be best. Whether it's a spiritualist contact, whether it's a psychological investigation, or whatever, the more creative your ideas, the more entertaining it will be for me anyway. So, leave them in the comment section of this video, and I'll return back to it with the passage of time, and we'll see what we can kind of create. I'm also planning on integrating that with the Ouija device and see whether we can use the letters of the alphabet on the Ouija board along with the pendulum. I know some people have done this before. I haven't done that all that much in my history, so it would be good to see whether I can experiment and to see whether that system would actually work well for myself. Okay? So, that's what I'm doing at the moment, and I'm looking forward to your feedback, because I see this as being an interactive thing, really. You can interact with me here on YouTube thanks to the wonders of social media, leaving your comments and all the rest of that. We can see what's come through. I've had one request from a certain very interested and interesting YouTube user who suggested that on the run-up to Valentine's, maybe it would be worthwhile actually doing an occult invocation of Saint Valentine himself to see what comes through, just like I did during Christmas time. I mean, that I think raises a few more questions, whether I should be invoking Saint Valentine or whether I should be invoking Cupid, who's also a very well worshipped deity at certain times of the year. So we can have a quick look and obviously see what's happening there as well, using the same method: meditation, chanting, visualization, maybe an astral journey as well, and see what kind of results we can, or apparent results we can accumulate as a result of doing the exercise. I'll leave you with that. Good fortune, God and or Goddess, and or none of the above bless, for those who think like that, or not, as the case may be. And I will speak to you again very, very soon. Bye for now.